'Tis I. Hey everyone, glad to see you back, glad to see you looking fresh. Venom, Let There Be Carnage is the sequel to the surprising smash hit Venom of 2018. And the movie follows Venom, of course, and Eddie Brock, of course, of the first movie. It has a couple returning characters, and it brings in Woody Harrelson as Carnage, which the name would imply there's a lot of carnage in this movie. The movie does a great job of showcasing Woody Harrelson as this not new character, because he was in a cameo in the post credits in the last film, so we knew he was coming and we knew what this movie would be about basically, and the movie gets us there for sure. The movie feels like an entire setup to get us a big Venom versus Carnage fight at the end, which I guess spoilers, but like if you didn't expect that, I don't know what you're doing here. Getting there, the film cooks at a really quick pace, because the film is only about 90 minutes, it's a little over 90 minutes with credits and all that, so it moves. It has to get pieced to here, to there, to there, and the story isn't great. It's not bad per se, it's pretty serviceable, but there is a plot driver between Eddie and Venom in this, and I wasn't a huge fan of it. I think that when they're together is when the movie is the strongest. The back and forth between Tom Hardy and Tom Hardy in a deep growly voice is by far the best parts of these movies. The visuals are also fantastic. That's one thing that I don't think the first one gets enough credit for. While, yeah, the villain looked like Venom, but a different color, this one also does that, but he's also pretty distinct, and I think that the CG work is pretty impressive. I do really enjoy the look of Venom, and I really enjoy the look of Carnage in this movie, and I think both of them, while not being 100% comic accurate to how they work and how they interact, look fantastic. And some of the action beats in this are very snappy and a lot of fun, and as opposed to the first movie where it was clear that the interactions between Eddie and Venom are the best parts, this is a toss-up between that interaction and the action parts, which is a good thing to say, because a lot of superhero action films, normally the action is not the best part, which is very strange, and I wish is a problem that would be resolved. Sometimes that just happens that way. I mean, you look at something like Black Widow earlier this year, while the action was decent, I don't think it was nearly the best part of that movie, where in this film, the imagination on display and just the way it looks and the locations, everything, it all looks great, it all feels great. Like I said, it's very, very snappy. But with that short runtime, there are some pitfalls with that, such as there's not a lot of character depth. There are a few running gags and whatnot, a few returning characters, but characters don't really seem to progress in this movie. Where it starts and where it ends, there is some closure to a few things, I would say. I will say it has to do with Michelle Williams, and she's great. I always like seeing her and her character and how she interacts with Tom Hardy and Eddie Brock. There's a bit of a closure there, and they're back. Dr. Dan is back, and we get to see how they're dealing with life and whatnot, and how Eddie's dealing with life, and this is an interesting movie. I will say that. This is not like a stereotypical like superhero film where it's like, this is kind of bland or whatever. This is a very different like feeling. I don't know the exact words to say in it, because going in I'm like, oh yeah, this is like another Venom. The first Venom is a bit stereotypical, so I was kind of expecting that same feeling here, and it's not. It's really not. It's quite different. It's a different feeling, a different kind of imagination. I mean, I guess that's what you get when we have Sony still making Marvel movies as well, and we get to see a different take on someone in this universe. I think that's one of the best praises, is that it feels different from other superhero films. There are some of the same, like this, and this, and then a big fight at the end. So if you're being very like about it, like in that certain way, then yes, this does feel like other superhero films. But something about the tone, just the way that like Eddie Brock is so down on his luck the whole time. He's just not living his best life, and we see that the whole time. And in recent superhero films, the characters always seem to be like doing great. Even if they're supposed to be like a downer character, they're just like, yeah, life's good. At the end, life's good, whatever. Eddie Brock's not having a great time. He's trying to build his way back, but it just doesn't work out for him all the time, and it's an interesting take on this, And I'm happy to see that Venom got to have more love. I was so surprised that the first Venom did as good as it did. Walking out, of course, there's this weird discourse of, like, critics don't like it, audiences do, but then it made a ton of money. So clearly someone liked it. So we get another one, and I hope this one does good as well. I would like to see something a bit more violent. And I've heard that a lot, and I get upset at people that are just clamoring for violence in this movie. I get in the comics, Venom and Carnage are extremely R-rated characters, and they should be. But, like, I don't feel the need that, like, if Venom bites a dude's head off, which he does, or Carnage bites a dude's head off, which he does, I don't feel the need to have, like, a blood spurt or, like, any blood. I don't get it. That's just one thing with me. I don't feel the overwhelming need to, like, I need that. Like, if it was in it and the studio made the director take it out or something like that, then I'd be like, hey, put that back in. Like, that needed to be there because the director wanted it to be there. Artistic integrity, all that. But if it wasn't there to begin with, I don't have a problem with it not being there, and I would feel weird if they just added it in post anyways. If they're like, movie came out, and then, like, for the Blu-ray, we got, like, a director's cut with, like, blood added in that wasn't there in the theatrical cut, that'd be strange. But if we get Venom 3 or whatever they do with this character next, they mix him up with Morbius or whatever, and, I mean, there's a mid-credit scene, not a post-credit scene, but mid-credits that does lead to something, so stay for that if you haven't seen it already, because it has leaked a lot, so be careful with that. And, yeah, I will give Venom, Let There Be Carnage, a soft score of a 7 out of 10. I feel I was pretty praisey during this. I feel it's about as good as the first movie, and I gave the first movie a 7, so that feels about right for me. It doesn't quite hit that level of greatness to pump me up to an 8. It almost does. There's something missing here. Part of it also could be that, like, the sound mixing felt off to me, and I don't know if it was the theater I was at. I don't know if it was just the way that Venom spoke. It just didn't sound right to me. Sometimes I couldn't understand what they were saying. Sometimes I could. Like, part of the time I was like, I wish there was subtitles on it. I don't know what he just said. So, I don't know if that was my fault, movie's fault, theater's fault, but that's a solid issue, and that dragged it down for me. Like, the music isn't all that memorable. There's not a ton of scenes that I really remember, besides the action scenes, and even the Venom Eddie stuff isn't as great as the first movie. But all in all, I still had a really good time. It was still super snappy, and I really enjoy that we can get movies that are under 2 hours. You know, I love me a good 4-hour long Zack Snyder cut, but sometimes just go in, have a ball, get out kind of experience. That's almost just as good. But anyways, that'll about do it for me. Thank you so very much for watching. As always, like this if you like this, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you at some point.